Welcome to Final Expense Telesales. I'm Dana Neeson, and happy Friday. Today we're going to talk about the importance of having a framework for your sales process. We're going to go over the framework that allowed me to build and create the script that I have for my team, and hopefully it will help you. If you are just now finding this channel, thanks for being here. I run a telesales team for Tailored Legacy. We sell final expense insurance over the phone with just one carrier. My job is to try and help you have stronger, more sophisticated sales conversations. All right, so let's take a step back and talk about what in the heck is a sales process? What is a framework? And why do you have to have one? Why can't we just get on the phone with people and have organic, natural conversations that mean nothing and have no direction? That was rhetorical. Hopefully you got that. Well, let's think about framework in a completely different perspective. I was listening to one of my favorite experts in regards to communication, Vin Jang, and he compared a sales framework to building IKEA furniture. And you can actually think about anything that you have built before that required step-by-step instructions to make sure you did it right. I recently just bought some storage shelves for the garage for our shoes. And although it was fairly simple to build, it still came with a decent amount of parts. And guess what it also came with? Instructions. Those instructions are my framework so that I can go in the correct order and make sure that by the time I'm done, it is exactly the way it's supposed to be built. Now, what if it didn't come with instructions? So I'm just supposed to look at all of these pieces, all of these screws, and figure out what goes where on my own through trial and error? I'm not sure that's the best use of my time. Now, there's other people that will actually take the instructions and say, I don't need this. I'm just going to build this on my own. Looks simple enough. Does that sound familiar? And if you're one of those people and you just start building it because it looks easy, how many times have you put the front in the back and the back in the front, or something upside down and something doesn't look quite right, and you pull out your instructions, aka framework, and you've realized you've put something the wrong way, and now you have to unscrew it. And every time you take a sales call and either you don't have the instructions or the framework, or you completely disregard it because you think you know better, it will not end in a sale. And if it does, the chances of it being in a chargeback are much greater because you did not go through the appropriate sales process that our prospects need to go through in order to really make sure that this was the solution for them. I'm going to give you an example of somebody else's framework that you might be more familiar with, and that is Alexhos Framework. So Alexhos Framework has a framework that he calls CLOSER. And CLOSER is an acronym, and it stands for something that has to do with each part of his sales process or his framework. The C stands for clarify why your customer is on the phone. Clarify. Now, in the first part of my script, we call that discovery, which is the same thing. Let's figure out why this person is on the phone with us. Cannot accept surface level answers. Now, what is a surface level answer? Well, it could be something like, I'm just getting older. I saw an ad. I'm just shopping around. I just wanted to see what it was all about. You called me, or someone just passed away, right? Those are all, even the last one, is a surface level answer. And it's your job to actually find the pain of the real reason that they're on the phone with you and have to clarify. So you're getting older. Okay, so I guess what about getting older has you thinking that maybe now's the right time to start looking at putting something in place? I'm just looking. Okay, but what had you curious to start looking in the first place? I saw an ad. Wonderful. What was it about the ad that had you curious to learn more? Or I'm just shopping around. Fantastic. What caused you to start shopping around in the first place, right? Don't be satisfied with surface level answers. If they said someone recently passed, I'm so sorry to hear that. What was it about that person passing away that caused you to want to start looking at this for yourself? Okay, you have to go deeper, dig deeper until you find the real reason, the real pain that they're on the phone with you today. Now, once you get that answer, you're going to clarify it. And in Alex Hormozi's framework, for the L, it's labeled out with a problem. So you're going to clarify their surface level reason. They're going to give you the real problem, and then you're going to repeat back what they said and ask if you got it right. So what about has you getting older that has you thinking that now's the right time to start maybe looking at putting something in place? And they say, you know, I'm 65 and a lot of people in my life are starting to pass away or get sick or have cancer. And I'm just really worried that if something were to happen to me, my family wouldn't have anything to bury me. Oh, okay. So it sounds like that you're seeing a lot of people in your life get sick, pass away, and you're worried that if something were to happen to you, that your family wouldn't have the funds available to pay for your funeral costs or final expenses. Did I hear that correctly? Yes. Okay, so that's Hormozi's second letter in his closer framework, which is label them with a problem. Now the O is overview their past pain. Okay, part of my discovery process is, well, how did we get here in the first place? Let's go back. All right. And so overview the past pain would be questions in discovery that starts with, so, you know, before today, had you already been out there looking for a solution to put in place? How long have you been looking? What have you found? What caused you to not move forward with those ones that you looked at before me? When they say it was too expensive, it was, how do you mean it was too expensive? What's too expensive to you? And you have to understand where someone has been before you can help them figure out where they want to be. So, overview of past pain, past experiences. Have they ever had life insurance before? If yes, what happened to that policy? How much coverage did that provide? Are they looking for that much coverage now, or has that changed for them? Even Hormozi wants to go back before you go forward. It is a critical part of the discovery process. Now his S, sell them the vacation, I don't necessarily agree with at this point, especially when we're selling final expense. Because I think before we could sell them on solving the problem, they also have to have a level of understanding of what is out there, so they have some reference points on what they're comparing things to. So before we move on to education, which is the second part of my script framework, discovery doesn't only stop at going back to past pain. It also includes what they want to accomplish. What expenses are you hoping to take care of with a policy? I need to understand if they want more than just a policy to pay for final expenses. That's going to help me educate them better, right? I'm planning my strategy on how I am going to move someone through the rest of my sales process. I'm going to want to know the obvious questions. Did they want a burial? Did they want a cremation? Who's going to be in charge of their final arrangements? And I am going to get them to picture in their mind, now who's going to go down to that funeral home, meet with the funeral director, pay for all the costs associated with the funeral, getting them to kind of picture that. I want to know who it is. I want to know why they don't want them to have to come out of pocket, because that is going to help create more pain. And it's not an obvious question, right? I know a lot of people say, why would I ask that? It seems pretty obvious why they wouldn't want their family to have to pay for it. Well, is it? Is making assumptions always going to serve you best when you're assuming you know their motivation? Or is it going to serve you better if you get them to tell you their specific story? Because their specific story about why they wouldn't want their loved ones to have to come out of pocket and pay for any expenses is only specific to them. And so tonality training is going to be incredibly important here when you ask questions that feel sensitive and uncomfortable and outside of your comfort zone. But only the best sales agents will. So that is going to require some self-reflection on your part, right? Do you want to be a top 1% sales professional? If that answer is yes, then that will require you to get outside of your comfort zone and help people by asking them harder questions. Okay? We also ask consequence questions. What would that look like, right? I'm just curious. You've been looking for a few months, haven't found anything yet. Have you thought about what would happen if you weren't able to find something that you could afford and you weren't able to put something in place to protect them from these out-of-pocket expenses? I guess what would happen then? Okay, so we're getting them to visualize what not solving this problem would cause, right? What are the consequences of not solving this problem? As well as I'm uncovering if there's a plan B. I want to know if I don't solve this problem, what do they have to fall back on? Because that's going to help me mine for objections. Actually, going back to Hormozy's closer framework, or sell them the vacation and explain away their concerns and then reinforce their decision. I pretty much follow the C, the L, and the O. And now we are on to the second part of the framework, which is educate our clients. And you know how strongly I feel about educating people on what they are shopping for. There is no reason for people to call 5, 6, 7 companies for the same exact thing. They are all solving the same problem, give or take $5 or $10 a month from each other in many cases. And so education helps them understand that what they are shopping for really doesn't make a whole lot of sense if we're all going to be about the same price anyway. So sometimes you could even ask them, like if you have someone whose reason for being on the phone with you is because they're shopping around, and you educate them on the differences between term and whole life, and you check in with them and you ask them if that makes sense, and you bring back the reason that they were on the phone with you in the first place was because they were shopping around, even though you went further and said what caused you to start shopping around, but you still know that they are shopping around. And so asking them, so if you know that you're shopping for whole life, and you also know, based on your previous quotes, that everyone's going to be around the same price, what do you think will be the deciding factor on who you end up going with? Do you think that's going to be on price alone? Right now, you can start peeling back that layer on what else might be important to someone when they are making the decision on who they're going to move forward with. Okay? So after we educate someone, which will help people make a more confident decision, right? I'm avoiding I want to think about it objection. I'm avoiding that's not enough coverage objection. I'm avoiding that's too expensive objection, because if they understand what they're getting a price for, they don't have to research it because I've helped them understand it, and they understand it in a way where they could even explain it back to me. What are they thinking about? The next part of my script and the framework that we provide is a section that we call problem awareness, which is something that I got from Jeremy Miner and NEPQ. I put it in a different section. Now, there is problem awareness in discovery by helping them understand that they have these problems that need to be solved. But our problem awareness comes with problems they didn't realize they had in regards to what's going to happen to this policy and how it will impact their family when they pass away. And this is a critical moment for those that are selling a final expense policy that's attached to an additional benefit for funeral protection, because the whole goal of this part of the section is not to sell them on the features and benefits. It's not to convince them how great we think our features and benefits are. It doesn't matter how great we think it is. It only matters how great our customer perceives it to be. So your goal in problem awareness, when you're talking about the features and benefits of what these additional things can provide, is to stay as neutral as possible. And you're always going to start by introducing a problem that your feature and benefit or solution solves. So you talk about the problem. Then you say to the customer, do you think that's a problem? They have to identify with that problem. They have to acknowledge that, yes, it is in fact a problem. Otherwise, your solution means nothing. So if you have identified and connected with the fact that, oh, that is a problem, I wouldn't want my family to have to wait 4 to 6 weeks to get paid. Well, why not? What type of impact would that have on them if they had to? Okay, so we're going to get them to convince us that waiting 4 to 6 weeks to get paid would be a problem, because you cannot get paid on life insurance until that death certificate is received, and it may take a week or 2 or more to get the death certificate, depending on the situation. So you identify a problem. They tell you it's a problem. Now you come in with the solution. In our case, we have the ability to advance money from the policy to pay for funeral costs and final expenses before the death certificate is even received. Neutral. Now, do you like the idea of that? Tell me how you think that could help them. My whole goal in problem awareness and solution awareness is to get the customer to sell me. Sell me the pen, right? I need to be convinced that my customer is convinced that this is the solution for them. And it is not about me convincing. It is about them acknowledging that the solution makes sense, and they're going to sell me on why that is. Okay, we have 2 of those in our problem awareness section. We have time frame for payout, and we have a advocacy program that helps contract reviews, purchase things at cost, reduce the cost of the funeral, price shop 3 to 4 different funeral homes in the area to try to save as much money as possible so more money stays in the hands of your family. But the problem starts with the unregulation in the funeral industry, how things are marked up 500%, and the problems that happen in the funeral industry today. And we talk about that problem. We have to acknowledge that it's a problem before we come in and offer our solution, right? And then we check in. Do you like the idea of that? Do you think that if your family could save thousands of dollars on the cost of your funeral, that might help them? Tell me how. What do you like about it? Sell me, right? The point of problem awareness when we're talking about these additional benefits that our policy provides is your goal needs to be to get your client to sell you. The next part of the framework to my script is sharing a story that helps them picture in their mind the reality of what their family will go through at that moment when they pass. And we label that in our script the hospital story. The hospital story simply paints a picture or helps the customer paint a picture in their mind of what will happen in the moment when they pass, and what will their family do, and who will they call, and who will they get on the other end of the phone? What information might they share, right? Kind of painting the picture of how emotionally devastating that moment will be, and how simple would it be if they could just pick up the phone, make one call to us, and we'll be there to start helping take care of everything for them. And then you shut up. And at that moment is when they should be sold. They really should. You should really start hearing, I'm so glad I kept shopping around because it led me to you. And I hear that a lot. Okay, so they're sold. I haven't even asked any health questions. I don't even know what they qualify for, because it doesn't matter, right? When you're selling one carrier, one product, it's very simple, and you can put all of your focus on a sales process and a framework. And even if I did sell multiple carriers, I'm not going to concern myself with which carrier I'm going to put them through until I have taken them through the journey that they want to change their situation, and that the tension of not changing it is worse than the pain of changing. Okay? That is the goal of having a framework. And by the time you get to health questions and you describe to them, the policy and all of that, and by the time you go to make recommendations, you're making recommendations based on what you think would be appropriate, what would fit within their budget. It never has to be all or none. It's always appropriate to put something in place, even if it is not as much as they were hoping to get, because something is better than nothing. And if you do this the right way, if you actually follow a sales process, if you have a framework for how you take clients from start to finish, you should avoid over 90% of your objections at the end. And that is the goal of what you need to do if you want to be incredibly successful in selling final expense life insurance over the phone. So that is the framework that I use to develop my script, that I teach sales agents to take somebody through a process to get them from where they're at to where they want to be. And you cannot just throw those directions out and think you can do it without following it. It doesn't work that way. I hope this provided you clarity. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. If you found value from this video, please do me a favor, give it a like. If you have questions or if something inspired you, post a comment, let me know what you learned, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.